My name is Peter L. Levin, and I am currently gainfully unemployed.
Yes.
I recently separated from the Department of Veterans Affairs. At VA, I was the Chief Technology Officer and the Senior Advisor to the Secretary. Today, I am unemployed.
Okay, cool.
Between gigs.
Between gigs,
Yeah.
good. Okay. So I want to start off a little bit about the experiment that's going on here.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts coming into it?
Good. My expectations coming in are exactly what's happened, which is a pretty rare thing. I personally very much like the idea of having light structure, sort of general agenda, very abstractly stated questions, because the real benefit of the meetings like this has nothing to do with the agenda. The real benefit of the meetings like this is all the interesting people that you meet and the conversations that you have, and sort of creating the crucible of the container for that interaction, lowering social anxiety, lowering professional anxiety, lowering sort of, even the content anxiety, because, what the heck do I know about the 6 questions that are being asked? Basically nothing. I'm a technology guy, right? And yet every single person I've spoken to has wanted to speak to me about something that's related to the GovLab experiment. So for me, it's been fantastic.
Great. And so, in your set, what are some of the best insight that you grasped from these sessions that you had today and yesterday?
For me, it's very, very subjective, right? But for me, the best insight that I gained was from the panel discussion last night, and from the extraordinarily coherent and deep conversation around the implementation of the Affordable Care Act. Guys like me, and it's not really a statement of partisan preference. It's just sort of what you learn when you're inside the Beltway for 4 years, and what people say and what people think about implementation of truly transformative legislation. And no matter where you sit on the political spectrum, it is transformative, right? I had not personally stress tested that. What's missing? What has to happen? Why are some people, really smart people, in fact, really smart and well-intended people who are not just taking pot shots at the president or pot shots at the party, but who actually want to see our healthcare infrastructure, our healthcare enterprise in the United States change? What do they really think about this, and what are their legitimate complaints? I was taking notes as fast as I could. It was absolutely amazing for me.
Great.
Yeah.
So let's talk about just a couple. Oh, actually, let's just go on to this was experiment 1, right? And the great thing about experiments is you can do a bunch of them, and you drill down, and eventually you get to a solution that's got a nice specific range of answers, right?
Yeah.
So what would you like to see happen in experiment 2, if we were to do this again, that's different, to maybe drill down into a more distilled vision of what we want to create?
I have, I think, only process suggestions, right? So let me work the problem backwards. Inductively, really. I would say the outcome of today and the idea and the opportunity of creating these 6 questions, assembling these randomized organized groups, and to have these kinds of discussions is terrific. I like the idea of saying, look, your objective is to get, whatever the tweet is, the summary. That's fine. You can play if you want. If you don't care to, you can be down here, have some coffee, and talk to interesting people. I love that. That's the most important thing. If I were to make any suggestion at all, I would personally want to do, I would say, a more explicit job of setting expectations. There is sort of a patina of structure, and whenever there isn't structure, we say, oh, that's an experiment. That's like, no. If Beth were here, I'd say, yeah, look, lady, the whole thing's an experiment. This is a meeting of people from a broad spectrum of perspective, and what we want is to see what they're thinking, right? And so you want to have these 6 sessions, knock yourself out. And I was upstairs, they're pretty well populated. But let's not kid ourselves. The whole damn thing is just an experiment. And this idea that it's going to feed into something that's structured is frankly GovLab's problem, but it's not the problem of most of the attendees. I think I would be a little bit more upfront about that. I don't think it was concealed, I think it was deliberate, but I think that you actually could set an expectation that would be more joyful, would be more fun, because you don't know what to expect when you come in.
Like, no, we're not going to build the device that solves the world's problems.
Right.
Is that it's just like, let's just start the conversation and go from there.
Yeah, yeah. No, I would be even more specific than that. So, we have funding from these groups. They are expecting these outcomes. These are the people who are, the full-time employees or the part-time employees or the friends of, or I got a new moniker today. I'm part of the Rebel Alliance.
I heard about this.
Great, great. But as the water is rushing in, as all these atoms are coming towards the point of concentration, it just be good. Okay, so there are people who are doing these things. These are the outcomes. It would help to establish a frame of reference. These are all, by the way, meant to be constructive outcomes because I am thrilled to be here. I just think this is the coolest thing I've done in months. But from a process perspective, I would say more transparency, a little more coherence, and a clearer articulation of the end goal, not the intermediary goals. The intermediary goals don't matter. It's just a way to have a meeting.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's great. So, okay, so now a couple things based on your experience at the VA.
Yeah.
And, we want to try to we're trying to create new solutions to problems all the time, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so one of these ways is through challenges,
yeah.
right? So what for you distinguishes a successful app challenge?
A successful app challenge, I think what distinguishes the success of a successful app challenge is defining success of a successful app challenge, right? There's a tautology there that I mean to be humorous and amusing, but actually has its roots in reality, right? So, and it kind of gets back to what you were saying a few seconds ago, Sina, that if you say, look, the objective of this app challenge is to build the prototypical platform upon which we can build a minimally viable product for which some company is going to pick up and commercialize, well, good on you. Let's get started with that. And people who are good with that, they may want to relinquish their intellectual property rights. They may have nothing better to do that weekend. That their girlfriend's going, their boyfriend's going. There's free food. There's 1,000 reasons why people participate in these things. It's the definition itself that matters, and you let people decide who wants to participate. So that would be, for me, the most important thing. I think to your question, there's a deeper meaning to your question that it may not be obvious, which is and it's really sort of an extension of the GovLab experiment, which I'm such a huge fan of and which I'm so privileged to be a part of. And the extension is, we want to get together this weekend to code up basic stuff, right? To build components, to build modules, to think about how do we get more participation in a farmer's market. This is a For Real Apps challenge, right? To get participation in sharing of health information, to provide access to care and communities of care. I'm talking about health-centric things because that's what I know about right now. But just to articulate the principle. So you could have an apps challenge that says, we don't actually know why we're having an apps challenge. We just want people to get together this weekend and work on things that they care about. And then we may be able to provide some focus to the outcome. Oh, you built the thing for education. You built the thing for semiconductor devices. You built the thing for energy consumption. You built the thing for health. Great. Or you might have an apps challenge that says, no, we in the White House need a very specific thing accomplished for the We the People platform. And it's all open source anyway, and the cool thing is we're going to do it in the Eisenhower building, and there's free food, right? Those are all app challenges, and they're really fun. I think the more we try to layer on a specific and anticipated or expected outcome, I think the more limited the participation's going to be, except for the people who are really, really interested in that, in either the venue, White House is pretty cool, or the outcome, We the People is the best you can imagine, but there are some others that are pretty similar. I personally would prefer to just have an apps challenge that says, we're not sure why. We're just going to get together and code this weekend, and we're going to see, we're going to let the people who come define what the most interesting problem is. That for me would be the most fun.
So it's really putting the power more on the people and having them define it almost, right?
Right.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And then, do you have an idea of, let's say you want to do an app challenge in a place with not a lot of people.
Right.
So you have like a small population.
Yeah.
What are some things that you would try? You got to be kind of innovative in that sense with your innovation.
Yeah.
Right? You have to change your process.
Yeah.
What are some things that you would possibly do then?
I would appeal to the hacker community's credo of social impact. I would be very, very clear. I mean, it's almost like an orphan drug conversation, right? And I don't know how they've solved that problem, and I think that they haven't fully solved it. But for sure and for certain, there are rare disease conversations and orphan drug conversations and people who need help. And there are a ton of people in our country, in our community, and especially the people that you and I know who are privileged enough to understand how a computer works, to how to rapidly prototype things, to how to address societally important, transcendent problems, right? So you're not doing this obviously for money, and you're not doing this if you're in a small community to meet people that you've never met before. You're doing this to have an impact, to help somebody in your community who needs a helping hand, because you know something? Day after tomorrow, you're going to be the one in your small community who needs a helping hand, who needs an errand run, who needs a little bit of extra help in teaching your kid to read, who might need a little support in getting the groceries that week, who might need a doctor's appointment that's subsidized in some way. So the idea that we're creating these kinds of communities and that we're using web and web-enabled technologies to facilitate and catalyze those communities, that is the best possible use of internet technologies. I think it's tremendous.
Peter, thank you so much for your time.